Hey, what's up, guys? This is David Chase Taylor of 911truther.org. Today is March 10th of 2026. So, based on breaking news and events, it appears that CIA headquarters located beneath CERN at Lake Geneva in Switzerland is going to stage a full-scale joint Israeli Defense Forces and or Armed Forces of Ukraine based attack, bombing, or invasion targeting multiple locations in Europe on the date of March 11th, 2026, specifically to trigger World War III with the Russian Federation. As I have documented in numerous videos over the last few months, the CIA has spawned the world's largest shadow army. I came to this conclusion based off the fatalities of the Russo-Ukrainian war. According to Wikipedia, is 140,000, which seems to be grossly inflated. Along with the fact that the CIA has been staging multiple Russian military drills in Belarus with 150,000 soldiers. So my layman's guess, best guess as a layman, is that they are going to use these troops from Ukraine that have allegedly perished in the Russo-Ukrainian war to stage a false flag Russian attack in Europe, specifically to trigger World War III. In this particular case, they are going to be aided by the 25,000 Israeli Defense Forces, which were called up during Operation Breaking Dawn, which I'm going to highlight in a minute. So exactly what's going to go down on Wednesday, March 11th of 2026 is obviously not known, but I suspect they have a three-pronged attack plan in order. There's three prongs on the trident of the Ukrainian national symbol, and then there's a three-pronged triangle, two of them, but there's a three-pronged triangle on the flag of Israel. And so to keep it numerologically sound, I would suspect there's three. First, the most likely scenario is that these special forces or soldiers from Israel and Ukraine will execute some sort of decapitation strike targeting Russian President Vladimir Putin, likely at the Kremlin Palace in Moscow, Russia, on the morning of March 11th of 2026. This could be a NATO-backed attack. This could be Ukraine going it alone, but they're likely going to be aided by Israeli troops. The second most likely event is that the CIA stages some sort of mass storming attack targeting multiple capitals across the European Union and our NATO nations. So a future scenario in which the cities of London, Oslo, Helsinki, Reykjavik, Warsaw, Kiev, Vienna, Berlin, etc., 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 are stormed and then held hostage by Israeli or Ukrainian troops posing as Russian terrorists or Russian special forces. This is a scenario which has been war-gamed extensively, and so it's just a matter of time before it's executed in real time, specifically to trigger World War III. The last event is one that I've been highlighting for weeks now, is that these roughly 150,000 Shadow Army troops from the armed forces of Ukraine have evidently been being trained over the last since 2022 for this paramilitary airborne assault targeting the Russo NATO border, possibly from Finland all the way down to Ukraine. So if we were to look at it from a space-based view, you would see that along the border between the West and Russia is massive amounts of troops and military vehicles all the way down. So my best guess is that at a future date, which appears to be March 11th, these troops will be flown in, possibly by the Israeli Air Force, possibly by the Ukrainian Air Force, and then drop behind the lines of either the Russian side or the NATO side as pretext for a false flag attack. these soldiers are likely going to be wearing Russian or Belarusian military uniforms, and so if they're dropped on the NATO side, they will kill NATO troops, and if they're killed on the Russian side, they would obviously it would be a preemptive attack and obviously they would not be in Russian uniforms. Obviously they would be in Ukrainian uniforms. So they have three options really to dress them up in the regular uniforms, in the Belarusian uniforms or the Russian uniforms, and then use them as an attack on NATO or an attack on Russia as pretext for World War III. And one of the reasons I came to this conclusion is because back on December 9th of 2025, a UK paratrooper instructor was killed in Ukraine, and nobody knew that the Royal Air Force was working hand in hand with the Ukrainian military, training them for airborne assault. Obviously, Russia is in their territory, so unless they're going to paratroop behind Russian lines, there's no need for them to paratroop unless they're going to a faraway location, which appears to be the case. And so the date of March 11th marks exactly 176 days since the CIA staged Zapad 2025, featuring 150,000 Russian troops executing a CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear exercise in Belarus. These are Russian troops back on September 12th through 16th. The date of March 11th marks exactly 176 days. This number, of course, has the number 16, which is found in the CIA logo. It also has the number 17, which equates to the letter Q, as in coup d'etat, because this is a overthrow of the current order. So this is going to change everything. This is going to be the beginning of World War III, and so obviously that cannot be allowed to happen. Also, most importantly, the date of March 11th marks exactly 1,314 days since the CIA staged Breaking Dawn, which was the Israeli Defense Forces activation of 25,000 so-called reservists. These are all veterans of the Israeli war on Gaza. These are all killers. These are all people that have murdered innocent Gaza babies for the last 10, 15, 20 years. And the number 1314, obviously it has the number 314, which is pi, which is again 16, because the 16th letter is P, which is symbolic of pi, and this is found again on the logo of the CIA. So of course this attack is going to have the numeric signature of the CIA who's ordering it. It also marks 1,476 days since the CIA staged the Russian invasion of Ukraine proper back on February 24th of 2022. Again, we have the number 16, again the CIA star 16 pointed, and then we have the number 17, as in Q is in coup d'etat. So the date of March 11th marks exactly 1,638 days since the CIA staged Zapad 2021. Zapad, for those that don't know, translate to west in Russian. So this is Russia moving west. Because it's a false flag, because it's going to be Ukrainian troops, they even labeled the military drills west, because the CIA runs all the countries against each other. And it marks 1,638 days since they staged Zapad 2021, which was 150,000 Russian troops in Belarus back on September 10th through 15th of 2021. Of course, 16 is again found in the 16-pointed CI star, and then of course 38 equates to CH, which is the abbreviation of the name of Switzerland, home of the CIA in Latin, Confederatio Helvetica. Also, the date of March 11th marks exactly 2,487 days since Vladimir Zelensky became president of Ukraine back on May 20th of 2019. Of course, the number 24 equates to the letter X, which is known internationally as a symbol of death, because this impending attack on Europe is going to, Ukraine is going to bear the brunt of the Russian retaliation, which is likely going to be multiple nuclear attacks targeting multiple cities in Ukraine. Also, the date of March 11th of 2026 marks exactly 4,402 days since the CIA staged the first Russian invasion of Crimea, Ukraine, back on February 20th of 2014. Of course, 4242, 4402, 42 or 24 equates to the letter X, and so this is two X's. 42 and 42, or 24 and 24, is XX, and when you take two X's and you put them together, it forms the Star of David found on the flag of Israel. So basically, on the morning of March 11th of 2026, the CIA is going to stage a military offensive that is going to be blamed on the Russian Federation, and like I said earlier, it's going to be with the shadow army of roughly 150,000 Ukrainian troops. That is because the only way they can get away with this is because the Ukrainian language is virtually identical to that of Russian, and only a trained or a native speaker can hear the difference in the language. So if 1,000 or 10,000 or 150,000 Ukrainian troops dress up in Russian uniforms or Belarusian uniforms and then commit an attack in Europe under the guise of a Russian military offensive designed to trigger World War III, nobody can tell the difference. Only until a language expert or somebody native to that particular tongue can make a judgment would we be able to tell, but by that time it'll likely be too late, because coincidentally when German Chancellor Friedrich Merz was in the White House on March 5th of 2026 talking to US President Donald J. Trump, he repeatedly mentioned the film The Day After, and that is about a nuclear exchange between the United States, Europe, and Russia. And that is also coincidentally the plot of the new film, the nuclear terror propaganda film that just came out called House of Dynamite. And so this is the plan, is basically to use these Ukrainian and Israeli troops in some sort of a false flag targeting Europe. And then of course Europe and US President Donald J. Trump will overreact, likely sending missiles into Russia, and then Russia will respond, and then we're going to have the mutually assured destruction scenario. And that is evidently planned for the date of March 11th, 2026. So obviously, if that comes to fruition in reality, I would kindly ask that you download this video and share it with local, state, and federal law enforcement, military, and intelligence officials, as well as with local, national, and international media outlets. Peace.